My teeth hurt.
Stop eating the candy. I know that's gonna hurt my ears when I'm editing, but I didn't hear a word of it now.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Magic and Mayhem. I'm your host, the King of Chaos. We're doing a very special episode today. Magic and Mayhem Impromptu Dental Surgery Edition.
No. Hold on, guys. Guys, please. We don't
You
get
have
it.
teeth, I want them.
Demonetized!
I will take your teeth from you for the low price of... I have them.
I don't like this at all, actually.
I give you this for your bones.
No, thank you.
This for your bones?
No.
This for your
No.
bones.
No, I can't
This-
trade
this
those
for
away
your
again.
bones.
I can't trade it away again. I need
This
some.
For your
This for your
bones.
No. Well, I mean, that is kind of
This?
shiny. Ooh. No. No.
This one has sparkles. This
Cool.
for your bones?
Wow, that's a bit... Hi, guys. I'm Ronnan. I have a fun fact for you. Did you
Tell
know
us.
that on the northernmost point of Libya, there's a temple of Zeus that the Greeks built? But even more interesting, just down the road, there's a Chili's. And I think that is amazing.
Ugh.
That was quite the noise.
This for your bones.
Do that noise again. Wow. Man, I'm gonna have a good time when I have to start cutting out all of this sound.
Anyway.
I'm just gonna do it in the middle of one of my sentences.
Don't.
Because I'm a monster. Not because I want to spite you, but because I'll forget.
Dude, there was so much
Anyways.
tape noise while you were talking last time because you refused to do it while someone else was speaking.
I still haven't listened to that episode because it's still not on Spotify.
Yeah, well, if Spotify would stop being a stupid platform for a podcast.
Let's see, that one's a YouTube exclusive apparently.
Yeah, that one's a YouTube exclusive. Last episode, I tried uploading like 6 times to Spotify. Nothing! I have nothing!
Dude,
No.
So if you guys want to check that video out, go look it up on YouTube.
this one.
Oh yeah. That's your notification, Spotify. It's not coming to you guys. Go look at YouTube.
This,
Yeah.
This one didn't introduce himself, but he's James. He did a lot of comb shenanigans, but never said his name. So.
For your bones.
No.
Oh, man.
No. Refuse to trade my bones. What are we doing today?
Alright.
Besides the dental
uh,
surgery?
Copious
So I
amounts
can-
of drugs.
I'll try and tell you before the anesthesia kicks in. I'm not
Ooh,
actually. I don't actually have anesthesia. I'm gonna hit you really hard on the head. There will be like a cartoon lump. So, the idea for this episode came from a conversation that James and I were having one day about how I have a couple of friends, specifically some of my partner's friends, who I really want to get into Magic because I think they would like it a lot. I think they would really enjoy it. They've got the knack for it. They already played the Pokemon game. So, you know
that one Pokemon game.
yeah, the trading card game. So I figured, hey, it might be a lot of fun if we taught them how to play Magic. And I made one of them a deck. But it was really complicated and kind of stupid. So James and I were talking about, like, you know, there are some commanders that are just like, they're good, but they're really not all that simple. And then we started talking about good but simple commanders. And now we're making an episode about it.
We're going to tell you about a lot of simple, easy to understand, but still really good commanders that you can make for somebody who doesn't know the game quite as well yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these decks are going to be they're not going to be full decks. We have a list of 9 commanders that we're going to go through, and then some cards that work well with them, just to sort of give you an idea. But the main point of the decks that you will want to build they're going to be easy to understand. And if you are just sitting down at a table and someone's like, hey, I want to play, I've never played before, you can just hand them this deck and they should be able to grasp maybe even the entire format, and this will be good for them to play with or play against.
And you might want to make sure that even though it's simple and fun, make sure it's not going to make them the target. My very first thought was Vorinclex Voice of Hunger.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which makes your lands tapped for double, but everyone else lands, when they tap, they get stunned, but without the stun counters.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really simple deck. It's really fun, but you're gonna be the target.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
don't want the newbie to be targeted immediately.
And also, at the same time, you don't want the newbie to be doing nothing in the game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If the
Because
game
his
is
commander has
boring
been
and they're not-
removed 4 times.
Yeah. If their commander's been removed 4 times, or they're not making an impact in the game, like either end of the spectrum, if their commander's way too good, it's not a good idea. If their commander's way too bad, it's not a good idea. So we have dedicated a little bit of time, 20 minutes roughly, to finding some commanders that are in that sweet spot, that are easy to comprehend and yet still very powerful.
I dedicated about 30 seconds of thought to this.
Mm-hmm.
I dedicated most of my day yesterday,
I forgot. We
mostly
needed to
because
do
I'm
this.
easily distracted.
Forgot we needed to do this until less than just an hour or 2 ago, and I didn't even look at EDH Rec or anything. I was just like, what are 3 commanders I can think of off the top of my head?
So you're getting very Mod Podge stuff from me and not very well thought out, but I still have them, so we're
Yeah,
good.
and
We usually record on Tuesdays. I got my timing incorrect because I forgot that we were doing Sunday today.
yeah, because I'm busy on Tuesday, way busy. And then Ronnan, I do have an idea or maybe a suggestion for this episode. How easy is it to put in like an image?
Pretty easy. I just have to have the
Okay.
image.
Sounds good. If I send you, or if we have like a list of cards that we talk about, since we're not gonna go too in depth and read out all of the cards that we're thinking for the commanders, I think it might be helpful if we have like just off to the side an image of the card, so
Got it.
people can pause and read it.
On the left, the commander that we're talking about. On the right, the card that is mentioned currently. All right, Ronan, figure that out. Go.
Yeah, and and then just for the viewers, we're doing that because we're just gonna mention the names of the cards that aren't commanders, and if you don't know what they do, we're trying to keep this episode short. We've got 9 commanders with probably anywhere from 5 to 10 cards to talk about in them each.
Or 0 for this guy because he did not think this through. I'll find
5 to 10 on average. So if you don't know what a card does, it'll be on the insert Ronan saying which direction.
Right.
It'll be on the for you to be able to read.
Right. The right. Don't make this harder for me. Say the word right.
It'll be on
Hey.
the correct.
Editing Ronan, I have a suggestion. Just cut chaos completely out of the podcast.
Got it.
For now and for always.
So the first commander that we're going to be talking about is Maya, Bredegard Protector. Kaldheim has a lot of really, really good commanders along these lines, and we'll might get into one later. Yeah, like James's Finn the Fangbearer deck. It has 2 lines of text, and it's a great commander, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Maya, Bredegard Protector, for 2 generic, a green, and 2 white, you get a 2/3 legendary human warrior, and she says the following. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white human warrior creature token. Pretty simple. So, this deck is just a green-white landfall deck. My thought process for why this would be a good simple commander is that for every good simple commander, it just wants to reward your normal game actions. And in this case, playing lands in a non-complicated AC way. So, some good cards to go along with it are other cards that care about landfall creating tokens. Stuff like Emeria Angel and Rampaging Balos, Zendikar's Royal, Retreat to Emeria, and Felidar Retreat. And then, if you want to, go even wider with token doublers like Mondrak Glory Dominus, Anointed Procession, and O'Hare Talk. The deck also wants to make the most of ramp spells and other just numerous landfall triggers like Grain does, with spells like Cultivate, Farseek, and Kodama's Reach, and then lands like Myriad Landscape, Cabaretti Courtyard, and Evolving Wilds.
I think you mean forest, plains.
And yeah, that's mostly what this deck wants to do, is just play a lot of lands, create a lot of tokens, and then you can either keep them small and go wide, Maya will make them bigger, or you can put in some overrun effects, like the spell Overrun or Craterhoof Behemoth, and Moonshaker Cavalry. All of them give plus power, plus toughness, and some form of evasion. But this deck is also going to be one where you're not going to just run the basic 35 to 38 lands. You're going to want like 42, 45, somewhere in there. And yeah, that's my first card. That's my first commander, Maya Bredeguard Protector.
Bravo.
It's great.
Bravo.
It's also, green-white is also a very good color combination for beginners as well. Because,
Big stompy, big life.
yeah, big stompy, big life. Everybody understands that.
Big numbers. Easy to get.
Anyway, James, what's yours? Your first one. What you got?
So I started thinking on what's a good way to get someone new into Magic. I thought, well, we've got Universes Beyond. That's a good way to get people in. So first off, a good choice that I've seen is just grab a Universes Beyond precon and let them play that. Those are usually
absolutely.
good for beginners. Except for the Doctor Who ones, those tend to be a little dicey sometimes.
Those were pretty complicated.
Yeah. But other than that, grab a precon. But if you don't want to do a precon, all three of my commanders are Universes Beyond. So first off, we have Gimli, Counter of Kills. Pretty well-known character from Lord of the Rings. If they like Lord of the Rings, they will probably enjoy the deck.
Unless they hate
He
Gimli.
has... Fair enough.
I've never met anyone who has, but it's still
I
an option.
believe Legolas Counter of Kills is also a pretty decent one, but that's not on my list today.
Yeah, that one's more about scrying, and that's... meh.
Yeah. But for 3 and a red, you get a Dwarf Warrior 4/3 with Trample. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, Gimli Counter of Kills deals 1 damage to that creature's controller.
Dink.
So it's a pretty basic red deck. I was thinking maybe Basilisk Collar, give him most specifically lifelink, get you some life gain in there.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Blazing Volley to deal 1 damage to each of your opponents and their creatures. Curse of Opulence to encourage your opponents to be attacking each other and not you. You can also put in what's it called? glittering impetus or something.
Yeah, something
Shiny
like that.
impetus.
Yeah, shiny.
Yeah. We've got dark steel plate to give your commander indestructible, just so he's not going away. There's fire emancipation, just to increase damage. It's a damage tripler, actually. There is Pyroclasm, which is another deal damage to each one of your opponent's creatures. Rite of the Raging Storm will give your opponents a creature every turn, but it cannot attack you. And at the end of turn, it's sacrificed, which is a creature that dies for Gimli. And then there's Spiteful Bounty, which is just an X spell that deals X damage to each of your opponent's creatures, and you get treasures every time an opponent's creature dies, which is kind of what you want to be happening. That's all I got for that one.
That's
I
really
got
good.
8 cards.
Yeah, that's really solid. That's sort of like the burn deck that also cares about goad and diverting eyes. That's really important because like what you said, it's very, very good that, you know, the newbie isn't the target, and so when the newbie can sort of make other people attack each other, that does take away a lot of the pressure.
That's good. That's good.
I very much like that.
Good.
Yep.
Chaos, give us your second one.
My second one is Dina Soul Steeper. She's from Strixhaven, which was another set that had a lot of really good 2-color instants and sorceries. I think that's also where... I think that was the first printing of Archmage Emeritus.
Yes.
Like James said, there was the special printing.
Hence why he was the bundle promo.
Yeah. So Dina Soul Steeper, for a black and a green, just one of each, you get a legendary 1/3 Dryad Druid. Whenever all of my cards are based on this first line of text, you can build around the second, but it's a little more complicated than I think new players would like. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So it's built around that sort of like siphon effect, where you're gaining a bunch of life, and when you gain life, you're draining the rest of the table. Her second ability is if you pay 1 generic mana and sacrifice another creature, Dina Soul Steeper gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. I do like that. That is a very cool thing to build around, but the cards I chose specifically...
Are we gonna blow our entire budget for a Sanguine Bond?
See... Sanguine Bond does the same thing as Dina. It's Exquisite Blood.
It's Exquisite Blood. Dang it.
But Sanguine Bond is a card that I want to talk about. It's a lot of the cards I have chosen are when you gain a life, target or each opponent loses that much life or loses 1 life. So stuff like Sanguine Bond and Creeping Bloodsucker, Marauding Blight Priest, stuff like that. Then I have some more payoffs for when creatures enter, you gain life. So you have creatures enter, you gain life, people lose life. Stuff like Prosperous Innkeeper and Essence Warden. Then there are a couple more things that help either give you more creatures that gain you life, or just deal more damage when you gain life. Stuff like Pest Infestation. I do want to read this one out because this one's really cool. It costs X, and green. Destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments. Create twice X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life.
Yippee.
So, yeah, all of Strixhaven's stuff, specifically Witherbloom, they keep what they want to do very, very compact and tight and very clear and easy to build around. So like there are a lot of Witherbloom cards that care about life gain and draining other people, and then there's stuff that when a creature enters you gain life. Then there's there are the cards that create those pest tokens that when they die you gain life. Then there's stuff that when a creature dies you gain life or people lose life. And it's just a very good value engine where it's like a creature enters, you gain 3, you sacrifice that creature, you gain another 3. Everybody has lost 6.
Strixhaven Limited must have been fun.
Strixhaven Limited was probably a really good time. The last 2 cards I want to talk about are Starscrape Cleric. That one has Offspring. That one's from Bloomborough. That one's really cool. And then Pristine Talisman. It's a mono rock that gains you a life whenever you tap it for mana.
Oh, I know that one, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one's really, really good. So yeah, this deck is all about, more about the life gain rather than the stack outlet. Of course, you can build it around those pest tokens, and you can use Dina to sacrifice those pests and gain the life. And that's sort of, I think that would be like a step above beginner, where you hand a beginner this deck, you give it to them. When they start making their own improvements and they realize the power of sacrifice outlets, that's when they start like, oh, that's what I do with this deck, you know? So yeah, that's my second deck. Dina, Soul Steeper. Very, very
Nice.
cool. Very good.
Cool and good.
Alright. Next up on my long list of Universes Beyond, we've got Fezzik, Rhyming Giant, which is a reskin of Brian's Stout Arm. For 2, a red and a white, you get a 4/4 giant warrior with lifelink. And pay a red, tap it, sacrifice another creature. Fezzik, Rhyming Giant, deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to target player or planeswalker.
You're throwing creatures at people?
Yes, he is just a fling.
Oh, well, why don't... I don't think he would appreciate that. He seems more like a one person for life sort of guy.
So I
Somebody
started
got
off
that.
with huh? I was reading a card, sorry.
I said he seems more like a one person for life sort of guy and not just a fling.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Now I get it.
So, Angelic Renewal is an enchantment that, much like your draw 3 spell, it only exists to sacrifice itself. But it's whenever something enters the graveyard from your battlefield, you sacrifice this and bring the thing back from the graveyard to the battlefield.
Nice.
So since Fezzik is sacrificing things, you can just get something with a lot of power back, I guess. Of course, we've got City on Fire, which is a damage tripler with Convoke. Because you're probably gonna want to at least kind of commit to the board in order to fling things at people. We've got Ghostly Prison, which is just to keep people from attacking you, since you're going to be sacrificing most of your creatures instead of attacking with them. We got Sneak Attack as well, which is an enchantment that you can pay a red and put a creature from your hand into the battlefield, and then it sacrifices at the end of turn. So you could just throw something big out there, and since it's gonna die at the end of turn anyway, you can just sacrifice it to Fezzik. And then your Angelic Renewal can bring it back, and it doesn't sacrifice at end of turn because it's a new game object. And then we've got Urbrask's Forge, just to keep turning out every turn some creature that gets bigger and bigger every turn.
Yeah, Urbrask.
And these things
Forge.
already sacrifice themselves at the end of your next turn. So they're around for 2 turns and die. Yeah, might as well throw them at someone's face.
Yeah, that Urbrask's Forge does absolute wonders in Standard right now.
Oh yeah, it's a good sideboard. Yeah, I only had 5 cards on Fezzik. It's a pretty simple concept.
Toss guys around.
Toss, dude.
All right. Well, my last commander that I want to talk about is Tori de Avenant, Fury Rider.
What a Tory!
And I
I'm
know
sorry,
that's
I watched way too much Tommy in it in 2020, man. I'm so sorry.
You'll never be forgiven.
And this one
Okay,
has
I deserve it.
this one has a.
You
lot
shall
more-
never speak. Ronnan, cut him out of the podcast again.
I already anticipated it. I'll see you guys later. I'm back. Okay. For 1, 2 red, and a white, you get a legendary human knight. She's a 3/3. So she has vigilance and trample. Whenever she attacks, all other attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Other red attacking creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. And then you untap each other white attacking creature you control. Now this is admittedly not the simplest. This is the most complicated of my 3. Only because of this is just like the learn how to play 2-color decks. This is like the step above. This is after you've played like 3 or 4 games. Because it does. Trample is kind of weird to wrap your head around, and will continue to be weird because something just came out about Magic and how assigning damage is going to change. I haven't looked into that yet, but
I believe
be
that's
interesting.
just multi-blockers.
mm-hmm.
I believe it moves your assignment of damage until the damage step. So if someone throws something onto another guy during the blockers or after declaring blockers before damage, you could decide, no, since he's gonna die against that guy, I'm gonna kill this other guy and then die against that guy now in the damage step.
Okay. That makes
I'm not certain.
Sense.
The professor's probably gonna put out a video on it here in like 3 days.
Yeah,
I'll watch that.
We'll hear about it.
I mean, he posts on Mondays, so it might be tomorrow's episode. Who knows? Or Wednesday's episode. One of the two.
But the main focus of this deck is, well, it buffs red creatures in one way, and then it buffs white creatures in another way. So the best thing to do is just have creatures that are both red and white.
Yeah.
So there's like Adriana, Captain of the Guard. There's Sky Knight Vanguard, General Ferris Rokrick, Legion's Initiative. Sorry, Legion's Initiative is something else I'll talk about. Sky Knight Legionnaire, Blade Historian, Balefire Liege. All of those are creatures that are both red and white that in one way or another care about other red and white creatures or attacking with creatures or casting red and white spells. Swift Blade Vindicator is another one. This one's pretty cool for a red and a white. It's a 1/1 with double strike, vigilance, and trample. That one's really cool. Tajik, Blade of the Legion. all of those. Then there are a couple of cards that aren't necessarily creatures, but are still red and white spells that care about red and white creatures, like Legion's Initiative, giving either a power or a toughness buff to your creatures depending on their power or their color. Assemble the Legion, which creates red and white soldier creature tokens. It was here earlier. I don't know where I went, but there's stuff along those lines. It's going to be a very creature heavy deck and a very low curve deck and very, very aggressive. I don't know how simple this one would be if I were to personally build it, but you could also just take a bunch of basic white creatures that don't have vigilance and a bunch of basic red creatures that don't have trample and build them like that. Or some white creatures with cool tap abilities, high power red creatures, all sorts of stuff like that. You could build this deck 1,000 different ways, and it would be powerful and it would be good, just because it focuses around, all of these cards focus around the same general theme.
Which is being colored and segregation.
Yes. Boros loves their segregation. But yeah, that's my second commander. James, go on ahead.
Alrighty. For my last one, we're popping over to good old Doctor Who. You knew I was gonna do it. Everyone knew I was gonna do it. This is the main character of one of the most infamous, or one of the most watched, at least, New Who episodes. This is Sally Sparrow from the Don't Blink episode. So many people love that episode.
It's a good episode.
It's
Never seen it.
it's a pretty decent character to just introduce someone into Magic with. It's like, oh, you'll probably like this character. You know this character. I'm not going to give you a doctor because all the doctors are extremely complicated and stupid. I'm looking at you, Ninth Doctor. Stupid.
Yeah. Flash is a little hard to understand too, but like way less than doubling.
Yeah, then
legend.
doubling upkeep triggers.
Doubling triggers.
Yeah,
and
doubling upkeeps.
And what are the historic? Figuring out what a historic spell is, that's so much
What
harder
is
than figuring out
historic?
what Flash does.
Yeah, and then like
But-
time travel and suspend. And vanish.
Oh yeah, don't give him a mechanic that appeared only in the Universes Beyond and never came back.
Don't give him the mirror.
Yeah,
headline.
that's
Time travel better come back, wizards.
It's a good mechanic. So for 2, a white and a blue, you get a 2/3 human detective. With you may cast creature spells as though they had flash, and whenever one or more other creatures you control leave the battlefield, investigate. This ability triggers only once each turn. So I just figured it'd kind of lean a little into the clues rather than putting flash on things, because flash is pretty easy to comprehend once you know what the mechanic does. It's pretty easy to know, oh, I'll cast my stuff now.
It's easy to understand
so-
once you know what an instant is.
Yeah. So starting off, just because this is an alphabetical order, we've got Academy Manufacturer, which is going to give us clues, or give us foods and treasures whenever we make clues. That way we're getting some stuff off of the clues, because clues are basically useless on their own. Basically useless.
You can
You pay 2 mana to draw a card. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not useful.
It's about the same mana that you would pay to draw a card with just like an instant or a sorcery that does it.
Isn't Brainstorm
Doesn't Brainstorm
one
draw
to
you
draw
3?
2?
It You draw three, but
three.
you put 2 of them back.
That's still significantly better than any clue could ever do.
And then there's all of the ones that cost 1, like opt, that let you scry or whatever first. Don't worry, it's just slightly more expensive, but it's still drawing you cards.
Yeah, clues are really only good in decks where you can tap just tokens you control for mana, or if you can reduce the amount of activated
like
abilities.
with I forget the name of it, but the Tezzeret from Neon Dynasty. It's not in my collection of cards because my idea was not to actually use the tokens, but
Yeah,
or the
and
clues.
I definitely agree. Also because, like, trying to explain a planeswalker to a newbie.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
I know from
Though
experience
might as well
that it's a little confusing, but once you figure it out, then you will no longer want to play anything but decks with planeswalkers in them.
Yeah, but then might as well start them off with a planeswalker that has a static ability. That way you don't have to explain, yes, this is a planeswalker that is also an enchantment.
And activated abilities and pay the adding or removing loyalty is a cost no matter what you're doing.
Alright. I also have a room. We have Drizzling Theater and Prop Room.
Which first one gives creatures Convoke. The second one untaps your creatures on everyone else's upkeep.
I love how
Convoke
you
and
had to.
Flash is very good.
I love how you had to turn your head sideways to read this.
It's a room! I have to read it! And then coming back from Doctor Who, we have 500 Year Diary, which you can tap it to make a blue mana for each clue you control. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got Inspiring Statuary. It just gives all of your non-artifact spells improvise, which lets you tap artifacts to create colorless mana to cast those spells. Another thing to use your clues. We have Merchant of Truth, which helps create clues, but then it clues you control have Exalted, which whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each instance of Exalted among permanents you control.
Which is really big if you have a bunch of clues.
Yep. And then we got Tangletrove Kelp, which it just, at the beginning of combat, it turns all of your clues into 6/6s.
Oh, yeah.
It Architect automatically categorized it as a finisher, so there you go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It also has Ward 2. It's a 6/6 clue plant. You can also sacrifice it to draw a card, but who's gonna do that?
Yeah, when it's...
You put your hand down, tiny blue brain.
Would I rather have one card or 12 6/6s?
One card.
Those 6/6s
Put
can
your
give you
blue
cards.
brain away.
Those 6/6s don't have to be 6/6s for me to get cards from them. I can sack them for cards too.
You can swing with them and then sack them for cards if they would die.
That's too much work for my tiny blue brain. Math is for blockers and green folk, and blue boys are over here like
Usually the
snap.
green folk aren't blocking.
Blue ain't. I ain't going. I don't block either. I don't got any
I
creatures.
take the damage. I take the damage. I'm a man.
I take the
Yeah,
damage.
I take the damage, I deal the damage. I take the damage, I deal the damage.
I take the damage. 'cause
Who
I
dies
don't have
first?
any
Him, because I have
blockers.
bigger creatures. Finally, I've got just a teleportation circle. On your end step, it blinks one of your creatures.
Mm.
Every time one of your creatures leaves the battlefield, you investigate.
But only once each turn,
Once each turn, yes.
which does lower the power
So
level
that-
a little bit, but it's still good.
Yeah, it guarantees you a clue every turn, so you don't have to worry about, oh, how do I make one of my creatures leave the battlefield? Preferably not by dying, because I kind of like him.
Mm-hmm. And it's on your end step.
You
so
could
it
also-
It takes off the summoning sickness before you need it again.
If you want to be really annoying, you could also throw in an Avacyn Restored. Give everything
Yeah.
indestructible.
Yeah.
Just for fun.
Just for
But
fun
yeah,
reasons.
that's that one.
Another thing that is worth noting is that it says once each turn, not each of your turns. So you
Yes,
can
so
blink
you
something
can-
on each of your opponent's end steps and create 4 clues a rotation cycle.
Yeah. So if you want to do like if you want to get really wild with it, you could get a Displacer Kitten and just cast cantrips. Just
Yeah.
1 mana, draw a card. 1 mana, draw a card. There we go.
That would be a lot easier than getting enough blink spells to keep blinking stuff on other people's
Yeah.
turns.
Ephemeral
Or
would
you
be
could
good in
do-
that one.
Yeah, it was on my list, and then I put in the summoning circle. It was like, oh nah, never mind. I'll just use this as a broad overview of, oh, you can do some fun stuff with some blink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carry on. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. But yeah, I think we have a very, very solid list.
It's good.
Of course, this does need to be said. If none of these really look interesting to you as a beginner, there are
Just
really great.
go look
beginner
at
cards.
Kaldheim. There's a lot of good ones.
Yeah, go look at Kaldheim. Absolutely. And
Play
in
Finn the
any-
Fangbearer. Make people hate you because you're playing poison.
Yeah, it's like there are good beginner commanders in every single color combination except for like 3, 4, and 5. But even in like 3s, you can find some good commanders in.
It's like these ones I just grabbed out of my binder of commanders. I was just
Same.
looking through yesterday. I weeded out 3 from like 15 that I wanted to do, including Jahura. Jahura's a good one too.
Yeah, the
Do
most complicated.
Jahura with, I forget what it's called. It's one of the white backgrounds, but it creates tokens.
Yeah, it's like
And then in the 99, you can have the other one that gives tokens +2/+2.
yeah, there are so many
Or
good
98, I
beginner
guess.
commanders, but there are so many more bad beginner commanders. So of course, if you go, even if you don't have a binder, go check out some stuff on EDH Rec. You can find good stuff and good color combos. You know,
I'd
color combos that you're
suggest
interested in.
I suggest sticking with mono colors, but I mean you don't gotta. It's the easiest, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Also-
you can do whatever you want. If you want your first ever deck to be a Traxa, fine, go for it. Best of luck.
I was actually thinking of mentioning Satoru Umezawa, just because, yeah, it's a weird mechanic, ninjutsu, but like once you understand, it's actually a really, really simple deck to get your head around. It does one thing, just because it feels extremely different every time you play it, because every card you have does different stuff when it enters the battlefield. It makes it seem like it's complicated. It's not really. You get a small thing, you swing the small thing. The small thing ain't blocked, you flip it out for a big thing. it's super, super simple once you understand ninjutsu.
Yeah, but yeah, there are 9 of them. Of course, do whatever you want, build whatever you want. But you know, we've all been playing Commander for
A while.
a while. Yeah, we're still, compared to some people, we're still new to it. But we've been hanging around Commander for a bit, and we've been learning about Commander for a bit. And I like to think that our input it comes from at least a knowledgeable foundation. It doesn't have to be like an all-knowing, but we kind of know what we talk about just based on how many times we've gotten our butt whooped.
And you don't have to stick with Commander. Commander's just a great entry point. If you have friends, definitely start with Commander. If you don't have friends that play Magic, start with a draft. Start with a pre-release.
Yeah.
That's a good spot to start.
Download arenas.
But you don't...
It's a
Download
good way
Arenas.
to learn.
Yes.
Arenas is a good
It
way to
will
learn.
teach you how to learn.
Because it'll
And
do
you
all the
don't-
complicated stuff for you. All you gotta do is just click the card up, and then if you can play it, it'll play it, and it'll do it. And you're like, oh crap, I clicked the wrong one. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
and it's like,
takesy backsies. Get used to that.
Yeah, and the Arena does make it very simple to learn. The only reason I don't like Arena that much is because it's like, I don't know, I want to sit face to face with people, you know? I want to... It feels weird playing against someone and I don't get to see their reactions, or I don't get to, like, politic with them. I like the more than 1v1 formats a lot.
I really like
And-
arenas because it's way faster.
Yeah, you can knock out a game in 5 minutes. Commander, you will be there for an hour.
Probably, yeah.
Minimum.
Minimum,
Unless you
yes.
and all of your friends are at the table are along the same lines. Or aren't on the same lines.
I really
And,
like the brawl on arena because it's almost exactly. I think it's historic brawl. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
Historic Brawl is
almost exactly
very similar
Commander,
rules.
but like just a few differences. Mostly with who can be your commander is most of the biggest differences, and kind of ban list stuff. But I like it because
Also, you
it's
can
just-
go to...
It's just you put your in real life decks on there, and you get us pretty close to the same deck, and then you just play it until you're used to that deck, and then you have practiced. Can
Yeah,
whoop
You can
somebody's
also
butt.
go to Magic Online. I believe they have all of the Commander-only cards. They have an actual Commander format, and you can do 4-player games. I think they even have a chat box. I'm not sure. I've not done a lot of research into it, but I really want to.
Yeah.
And I think you can do actual card trading as well.
Oh, sweet. That's our episode. We've got some good commanders, some good resources. Of course, one of the best ways, if you don't understand Commander or just anything like that, you want to get into it, you can always just buy a pre-con and sit down at a Friday Night Magic. The community is almost exclusively very welcoming to new beginners, or like to new players.
Yeah.
Now we can end the episode.
Goodbye!
Goodbye. I'm sorry, I've just been sitting here listening to him talk
your
in circles
bones?
for 15 minutes. We gotta go.
Squares, sir. Cards are rectangles.
I'm
not
sorry.
circles.
Bad at shapes.